We are live, Stacy. We are back for our usual Tuesday afternoon chat all about relationships. You are here with Stacy Taylor, men's coach, and Joanne Webb, the happiness hustler. And we are the Sacred Relationship Lab. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Ha ha ha. Stacy and I were just chatting before we went on air. Because for those of you who are new, we're both coaches, but we've both been doing this journey of self-discovery and healing for years. Perhaps you're about 3 years, aren't you, Stacey? And I feel like I've been about 23 years. But we're just saying how life feels good, but we're still learning lots of lessons.
Yeah, one thing you'll learn as you start to awaken is that you've been living in a lie, and there's habits and behaviors that keep that lie alive. And so, we come of this generation or just this society that's been designed to force, to push, to hustle, to grind, to create. And what I really learned is that's often the negation to keep us from seeing the truth. And as you start to awaken, you've got to realize that you're also awakening to a purpose, a soul's mission, a calling. And sometimes you've got to be able to surrender. And that sounds easier said than done. It's simple, but it's not easy, especially for me, because I know where I want to go and I want to just go there. And so, yeah, learning to surrender and allow that flow of life to come in is part of that journey.
I love the word surrender. It's such a beautiful word, because when we say let go, it's almost like you want to keep clinging on by your nails, you know what I mean? But when we say surrender, it just almost makes me want to open my arms and just allow. It's such a beautiful word. But as you say, we do know all we need to do is surrender. We've learned that lesson, but still there's that programming that's there, that very, very deep programming. Oh, we must hustle to get anywhere. We've got to literally work our fingers to our bone to achieve success. Or who the hell am I to be here in this space when I don't have 4,000 letters after my name and 27 qualifications? You know what I mean? It's like there's such this deep rooted programming. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's something I've really become fascinated with, the word trust, but the programming that we take on that we don't. People are trying to become something in order to get something. That's my general experience of working with thousands of people, my own life, and just seeing that we're conditioned that we're to go out and get something. And if we get that, we'll be considered something and then we'll be valuable. And as you start to go on this journey, you realize pretty quickly it's not about getting anything or becoming anything. It's about unbecoming everything that you put in the way or in front of your authentic self. And that's such a hard concept to actually grasp, that you have to strip away everything that you aren't at the authentic level. And this is what our relationships, that's why we're doing this relationship lab, is because our relationships are the teachers, the catalysts for us to reveal where we're not free. So
Yeah, I hear. And I speak to clients, and one of the first questions I ask them is, who are you? And a lot of them don't even know who they are. There's labels. Oh, I'm a mom, I'm a dad, I'm a brother, I'm a banker, I'm a lawyer, whatever. There's these labels, but that is not who we are. Who are you and what is your truth? And then when you start to unravel things, and then you see the patterns that they're living by, like the unworthiness pattern, well, where did that come from? And it's like, wow, I've just taken on all this shit. And it's almost like we've been walking around these big Velcro suits, and other people's opinions are sticking to us, and then they become our story. Other people's ideas, societal expectations, whatever, they become who we are, but it's not who we are. So when you can take off that suit, find out who you are, it's like, and there I am. That's why all of this doesn't feel right anymore. This feels foreign. It feels sticky. It feels like too much work. Look, I'm not surprised mental health is at an all-time crazy, because most people, they used to call it a midlife crisis, didn't they? What about when people used to go out and get midlife crisis? The guy would go and get the sports car, the woman would lose loads of weight. This is in the 80s, isn't it? All of these stories. It's not a midlife crisis. It's getting to the point where all of a sudden you go, fuck this shit. This is not it anymore. And then people have those knee-jerk reactions, like go and buy the big sports car because they think that's what's going to make them happy, because they've towed the line for so long. I don't know in your workspace, but I see a lot of young people as well. And I think midlife crises are happening very early in life. Like I have these 20-year-olds coming to me, 20, 24, 27, and they're like, this doesn't feel right. What is going on with me? Nothing is right about this.
You're right. So I always say to people, you're always in a crisis. It just took to your midlife for you to see it. And I see that too. Like the younger generation now are awakening to the truth a lot earlier. We kind of did it in our early 40s. They're starting to come to it in their 20s.
Mm,
But it's really a journey back to authenticity.
hmm
I asked this question of one of my clients today. I said, what's the number one human emotion that we can experience? And most people say love, but the highest human emotion that we can experience is authenticity.
mm,
So what the anxiety or the depression or the mental health is your body, your soul is screaming out, trying to get your attention to say, we need you to look inside and strip away everything that you've put in front of your authentic self because we're dying as a soul. My
mm,
soul is dying and it wants to express, it wants to show up in the world authentically. But to do that, you've got to face the grief, the loss, the sadness, the guilt and shame that we carry. And it's hard to understand because most people look back at their childhood and they can see the positive in it. They'll say, oh, it wasn't the best, but it was this. But there's experiences that you are still carrying that you've forgotten.
mm,
This is the thing that people need to understand, that there's things that you've gone through that you've forgotten about that carry an energetic emotional weight. And
mm,
you're going to keep recreating that experience over and over through your relationships. That is just going to add to that weight. And eventually you've got this backpack of rocks on that weighs a ton, but you don't know it's there. You don't know how to get it off and you don't want to look at it. And so the anxiety and the depression is the way to escape feeling that pain. But when you're getting into that dark hole, that's when you're getting the closest to, okay, I'm going to have to feel all of my shit and it's going to hurt.
mm. But it's gonna hurt way less than living a lie, eventually. So though I said, what was the first thing we asked each other? We asked, how are you doing? And I was like, I'm feeling phenomenal. And I asked you the question, didn't I? Said, do you remember when you felt shit about your life, but you didn't even realize you were feeling so crappy about it because it was just your norm? It's like putting the frog in the water, isn't it? If you put the frog in the water and slowly boil it, doesn't jump out. But if you put a frog in boiling water, like if we just jumped into this world now and with all our old conditioning and just jumped in, we'd go, whoa, something's wrong here. Like the frog would in the water, but because the conditioning just happens, it trickles in over our life. You don't even realize that you're not authentic, that you're not living to your biggest dreams, that you're not living in alignment with your soul because you think this is how it looks. We're supposed to have relationships with drama. We're supposed to work in a job that we don't particularly love. We're supposed to just save our money and perhaps go on holiday once a year. Whatever the picture is that you've been shown, there's lots of pictures. Oh, there's supposed to be famine over in Africa. I mean, what the fuck? None of this is true. It's like, but once you've done some work and you're living at a higher frequency, you can see how much you struggled back then. But in the struggle, it's not feeling great, but you don't know how to get out of it.
Yeah, this is probably one of the biggest realizations I had for me is that the ego creates an illusion, a fantasy of the life that you want to create. And you believe you're in the driver's seat, driving the car, the engine's going, the wheels are spinning. But I realized that my wheels were spinning and I had actually gone nowhere for 30, 40 years. I'd actually gone nowhere. The illusion was that I had.
Yeah.
But I get those things that I wanted and I get rid of them and I get them and I get rid of them. So when I actually looked at my life, I was like, you haven't fucking moved anywhere since you were fucking a teenager. You're actually in the same place. And to sit there in your 40s and have to question everything, or your 30s or your 20s, it won't matter when it is the scariest fucking thing you will ever have to do because you're going to have to admit that everything I've ever wanted, I've never actually wanted it. And
Mm,
then you've got to look at why that is and excavate up what's at the root of that. But I share this all the time. Whatever's going on internally, life will draw it out of you like poison from a wound. So if you don't do it, it's life's going to do it to you anyway. And always say, take yourself to school before God does, because if God does, he'll hit you with a Mack truck moment, and then you're gonna have to sort it all out when you've been smashed.
Yeah. Yeah. Ain't that the truth? Woo! Well, here we are. We've got a couple of questions. Shall I go with mine first?
Yeah, go for it.
It's quite a broad one, which I thought was really cool. When is the right time to get back in a relationship after you've left one?
Ooh, this is a good question.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
Because you could go at this from so many angles.
I think the first thing is giving yourself time to grieve. If we don't really go into the loss, and there's levels to going into the loss, the breakup, the loss. And they say time heals, but that's not true. Time only heals if you heal within the time, and that's actually a conscious process, and it's something that we have to actively do. We have to go and face the things that still hurt, and go towards it and grieve it. And once you start to grieve it and let it go, you'll start to attract in people that you're like, oh, I quite vibe with that person, or I'm actually feeling that interest again. And one of the things I think too is slow down. Slow down. We live in this world where it's like, I can see this woman on Instagram, I can hit her a message, and we can be out for a coffee and in the bedroom within a week, right? And we lose all of we lose the chase as men, we lose the hunt, we lose the whole experience, and I think it's about allowing yourself the grace to attract in somebody that, I guess, matches the growth you've had from the relationship that you've broken up with. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's ever a right or wrong answer. It's a personal journey, but if you're asking the question, there's probably a part of you that's ready, but there's still a part of you that's maybe a little bit scared or a little bit afraid. So, you know, look at, what am I still afraid of? What am I still holding on to that no longer serves me? And how can I embody that, or move through that? And I think that would probably be the best piece of advice I could give on that.
Because I think what happens is, I think there's quite a lot of judgment when you come out of a relationship if you were to jump in another one pretty quick. A lot of people have opinions on this. I remember going to like North Harbour, living without violence, after I left my second husband, and we did like this course. They were helping you, rehabilitate and see the signs and all of that kind of stuff. And I just took every help I could at the time. And I remember them saying, do not enter a relationship for 2 years. And I was just like, but I was like, well, okay, I could. And in hindsight now, looking back, I can see what they were trying to do. If you've just been in a highly abusive relationship and you leave, it does take a wee while for your nervous system to calm down. And, we've talked about this before. If you've been with a narcissist, it changes you on every level. So you feel like you're a different person. So it's nice to come back to who you are. However, if you haven't had a relationship as tumultuous as that, I feel like, and you might see this wrong, Stace, but let me know what you think. I see women in relationships, and I think a lot of them grieve while they are in the relationship. So they beg, they plead for things to be different. They're perhaps going off on a different trajectory. And it's not always this way round, but I would say a majority of it's this way round. And they grieve a lot in the relationship. And then when it's like, when they decide to pull the plug, they've gone through a hell of a lot of grieving process already. But I still do agree with you. I kind of got to that stage with my first marriage, but then I didn't actually do the full on grieving afterwards. I had to do all the grieving when I left the second marriage. And that's when I grieved everything, because I did it consciously. So it's that conscious grieving. I think, even if you're a male and you've grieved within the relationship and you're so desperate for that love and connection, I understand we're all desperate for love and connection. That's what we're here for. And it is beautiful when you get attention or you feel loved and whatever. But consciously heal. So I think you definitely hit the nail on the head there, Stacey. So there's no time frame. As you say, you'll know yourself. And when you're vibrating at a high level and you don't need a relationship, that's a great time to look. Well, not to welcome one in, not even look for one, just be available for one to come along.
Yeah, and you're so right. You shared there. So many women grieve in the relationship. I think we shared this last week or the week before. You see these women drop out of a relationship, and 6 or 8 weeks later, they're glowing like this goddess. They're just glowing, and you're like, "Fuck! Didn't she just come out of the most fucking toxic relationship she's ever been in?" But it just goes to show that, the number one trait you'll know you're in a toxic relationship is your health will decline,
Mm.
right? Your physical, mental, and emotional health will decline. And that's when you can start to look at, oh, yeah. But, like Joanne said, once you don't need it, once you've healed the aspect of you that was from the past relationship and you allow that attraction to come in, there's no time frame. And you shared something really powerful. The world has judgment, timelines. We should be this, we should be that, we shouldn't wait, you shouldn't go into it after this long or that long or how long. But if you've grieved it and learned the lesson and someone comes along and you choose it, well, what, fuck, who gives a fuck what anyone thinks? Like, I'm over this conditioning from the church and this conditioning from the governments that say this is how it should be, black and white, and if you don't do that, then it's not right. And even one of the ladies I was working with today, brought up a lot about sex and the shame she was carrying. And I said, why? What? Besides the fact that you felt like you didn't treat yourself well, was it bad or not? And she goes, well, it actually wasn't. So it's just the
Mm.
societal conditioning that we take on that this is our, strip it away, strip it away. And, when you're ready, put yourself out there, but just have that honor yourself on the journey. If it's not
Mm.
right, walk away.
Yeah. That's a really nice question though, because I do think people, I know friends personally who are in, like, they've got a therapist and they go off to, and is this too soon? And some, some therapists have gone, "Oh, you shouldn't do that." But actually most of them nowadays, I've heard some really beautiful answers, like, this might just be your angel that you've just met Earthside, or, it's, just take it easy, take it slowly and see how you feel. And where are you in the grieving process? So I think it's becoming way more talked about, and there's not those, but there is still judgment out there, but not from, hopefully, for the professionals.
Yeah. And you got to remember that this is a modern world. Back in the primal days, we would have married that woman and stayed with her until she died. Or we would have married that man. Now we have the opportunity to experience the different relationships. But often stepping out of that one that's no longer serving us is the toughest thing to do. And then sometimes that can leave some scars because we're afraid, what if that happens again? So just do some work, find a coach, find a way just to investigate a little deeper, grieve a little more, and allow yourself to open, and you'll attract something beautiful in for yourself.
Lovely. I like that one. Go on, you've got one, haven't you?
Yeah, I'll just open it up. So I feel like I'm in the loop of doom with my husband. Um, I can see that I'm self-sabotaging the life I've created, and I'm in the midst of breaking it all down. What do I do?
So she feels like, sorry, can you read that again?
So I feel like I'm stuck on the loop of doom in my relationship with my husband.
Do.
I feel like I'm self-sabotaging the life I've created, and I'm in the midst of breaking it all down. What do I do?
Oh, well, I suppose we'd probably have to have a bit more of an understanding about the situation. But I gather, if she's saying she's in the life of doom and she's self-sabotaging, does that mean like the relationship with her husband is doomed, or she's creating the doom, do you think?
Yeah, I think when I read into this, I think, language is very powerful.
Mm.
So if we're feeling like there's a doom, there's a subconscious mechanism that's recreating, like what I've learned, this is just my experiences of relationship, is that whatever our attachment style was as children, And whatever template of love we formed within that attachment style is our known template for love moving forward until we dissolve it by doing the inner work.
Yeah, for sure.
So on a conscious level, I'll be looking at it and I'll go, oh, my mum was amazing and my dad was amazing. And, you know, they worked hard. And, oh, actually, dad was an alcoholic and mum was a manic depressive or had anxiety disorder or, you know, narcissistic traits. What you don't realize is there was so much more going on with your parents at an unconscious level than you ever could imagine. You absorb the same frequency. So your template of a love is to create a similar relationship.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You're gonna attract in someone with the similar wounding of the unresolved trauma that you have with your parents, which is gonna actually feel like the life of doom, because that's how I actually felt as a helpless child and my parents with my family or whatever environment I grew up in. So what happens is when we fall in love, we feel the temporary absence of our childhood wounding. So we feel whole. When we feel whole, we take the walls down around our heart. We're open and we're expansive. And we can go to great heights really quick in that relationship, right? You know, I know for the men, they'll probably have the most financial success. Their bodies will get in incredible shape. They don't need sleep. They could conquer the world. They want to just see that woman and thrive. She's the same. She's open. She's soft. She's expansive. But then you get to this level and something triggers the old programs. And the ego that's been dormant for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, goes, oh, I felt that. And it looks around and it feels the wholeness that you're experiencing. And it says, that's not your template of love. I'm going to save you and bring you back to your template of love, which is related to the environment that you grew up in. And this is where the self-sabotage comes in, and you can't stop it. And the harder you actually try to stop it, the more you reinforce the lack, scarcity, guilt, shame, and fear that you're actually carrying at an unconscious level. And so you come back down to the same place. And the more you try to hold on to it, the more it hurts you. So what you want to do is find someone to work with on this. Find someone who can help you to see into the blind spots of why it's feeling like doom, why you're self-sabotaging this beautiful life that you've created and you can't stop yourself. Because as soon as you dissolve those things, it'll stop happening. But you've got to go in at the roots and tear that thing out. Don't just trim the branches of that poison tree and hope to, you know, create a beautiful relationship and grow and expand it out to what you really want it to be again.
Yeah. No, sorry, I just didn't really hear the question. I couldn't really get the gist of the question when you were saying it. Sorry, but no, absolutely with everything you're saying. And this is what, even when we were just talking about earlier, go back to our original conversation, you know, who are you? Who are you and what do you want? And what does actually love mean to you? Because as you say, Stacey, we're so good at self-sabotaging and self-sabotaging. I mean, she's actually used the words herself. Most people don't even realize they're self-sabotaging. They go and do these crazy ass things, like they might go and sleep with someone, or they might go and gamble all of their family's money away, or they might be flirty and or just do or you know, go on off and have their porn addiction or whatever. There's so many ways to self-sabotage where people don't even realize they're self-sabotaging. Also, I would say, for starters, it's great that you actually realize that you're self-sabotaging. That in itself is an amazing awareness, because now you can actually go and do something about it. You know, and is this the relationship? Is it beautiful? Is it exactly what you want? Or is that need inside of you, that childhood wound that's needing something? But most people can't give it to you because it has to come from you. That childhood wound is just screaming to be healed, to be filled with unconditional love from you. So I would say, first and foremost, congratulations for realizing that you were self-sabotaging, because that in itself is great, because most people have not got a clue. You know, I have a lot of people come to me, I'm sure you'll be the same, Stacey, with such sad stories, and they don't see that they're doing it. You know, they go round and it might be a different mistake, but it's the same mistake, but just in a different packaging, just with a different bow on it. So there's a childhood wound in there, which is just aching to be healed.
Yeah, I love what you shared there. And it's about admitting the truth. You know, I asked a question yesterday, and the feedback and the people that have messaged me, and even for the people out there that listen to this, answer this, drop the answer into me or Joanne. And the question is, what is the lie that you're living? I asked this in a video yesterday, and I've had half a dozen people reply, and it's incredible when you ask the right question, what answer comes in. So what's the lie that you're living?
Mm.
And then from there, it's, you can start to see, I'm actually doing this. It keeps happening. I say I want a beautiful relationship, but I don't have it. I say I want love and respect, but I don't have it. So life's a mirror. It's not a window. When you first entered that relationship, you were open, you were loving, you were unconditional. So your partner mirrored it back to you. Then the childhood wound got triggered, which activated the program. And now you've moved from an open, expansive state to a state of fear, trying not to lose what you had.
Mm.
And that's the illusion, because every Disney cartoon and every romance movie out there says, you complete me. I can't live without you. So we're conditioned that we were getting the love from that person outside of ourselves when really our heart was open and they were the mirror of us.
Mm.
And that's what I believe this whole journey is God's going to show you what wholeness feels like. You have to know what it feels like in order to go back around and heal it and come back to that state. You're the source of what you seek. And once you come back to the source of it, it will either be mirrored in that partner, or you'll move on and you will attract in someone else. And this plays out in the three main areas of life, which is our relationships, our health, and our finances.
Mm-hmm.
So look where it's easy and where it flows and where there's abundance and love, and look where you're struggling, and that's where you'll find the answers of where you need to do the work in your life.
Yeah. And remember as well, your husband, unless he's an extremely evolved human, he may be feeling like you are as well. He might be feeling he's probably got a childhood wound or 7 or 25 that need healing as well. So it's a journey that you both could go on together, which would be beautiful.
Yeah, it is, like when you realize, even with the client I work with today, when you realize how childlike it is, what's actually playing out, you can actually start, at the end of this client session today, she just started laughing, and next minute I'm laughing. And she goes, this is fucked. And I said, yeah, the truth hurts when we believe our own lies, but when we expose ourselves on the things that we hold so much guilt, shame, and humiliation around,
Mm.
once we take that shame and we look at it, that becomes healthy shame, and then healthy shame creates humility, and then humility turns to humor. And now the thing that had the most power over us, that hurt us the most, that created the most pain and suffering, we can actually laugh at it because we can see through the truth of our own lies and realize it wasn't the event, but the narrative that I put around that event that's dictated my entire life. And I created everything in my life. No one actually did anything to me.
Mm.
And that, for me, even took a while to understand that no one had actually done anything to me. I had unconsciously created it. Peter Crone says it, God, the universe will bring you people, circumstances, and events to reveal where you're not free.
Mm.
And that's a concept that takes a little bit to get your head around.
Well, it does take a bit to get your head around, because I think what people think is, well, I didn't do my childhood. I didn't ask for any of that. And that's not what we're saying. We're not saying that you've asked for anything in life, but you've definitely attracted things. And, your childhood was your childhood. But once we become adults, it's our responsibility then to be the driver of our life. And most people are not the driver. Like you said, Stacey, you thought you were the driver, but the wheels were just spinning. Most people are sitting in the back and looking out the window because they're not even driving their own car. They're just being taken for a ride by their emotions, by this experience, which were all made in childhood, which was not your fault. We are not blaming that on anybody, not even blaming it on your parents, not blaming it on your caregivers, because there's no blame. It just is. But as an adult, we are all autonomous humans, and we've all got just as much chance as the next person to heal and thrive. If you are not thriving, that's your responsibility.
Most people are living in a prison with the doors open, but because the doors are open, they don't believe that they're in a prison. But 97% of the planet are living in a prison, and their life is the same projection of the same identity from their childhood. They just can't see it because the ego creates an illusion that you're going somewhere, that you're going to get something, that life will be different, or you'll get rid of something. So it's, it's not about becoming anything. It's about unbecoming everything that you've put in the way of your true self. And so that's why you're called in your partner. And
Mm.
at the end of it, you'll see that that was the greatest blessing you could have ever had. And whether you stay together or not, you'll be thankful for that person for the rest of your life, because you'll realize that they were actually the gift for you to individuate and really move into your authentic self and separate from the constructs of your that are still connected to your parents.
Ooh, that was a good question as well. Once I got it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
once I got the word in my own little tiny brain.
Oh, you did good. You did good. It was a different one too. So yeah, that's good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, they were great questions. Gosh, and you know, it's like it's funny because we get asked different questions, but really the answers are pretty much the same every time, aren't they?
The answer's the same, man. Like, even me recently, I was still looking out to the modern world of coaching and motivation and inspiration and discipline. And I'm all for these things. But if the program in your mind is set up for you to fail, and you've got the ego driving you to success, and you have the discipline and the habits and the ritual, where's the program always going to end up? Back where it started, spinning the wheels and going nowhere.
Yeah.
Go and dissolve the programs that are controlling you. And I don't care who you are, your childhood is dictating your life. And it doesn't matter how rosy it looks on the surface, trust me, because I work with everyday people that work a 9 to 5 to multi-millionaires. The
Mm-hmm.
gap between them is nothing when it comes to what their experiences and the pain that they're going through. But
Mm-hmm.
one just looks shinier than the other. And so a lot of us feel like we want that over this, but you're never free until you're free internally.
No, that's so true. It's like, I don't know, in your past life, pre-healing, how many things did you pay out for thinking it was going to change your life? I think about me, I've been on every business course known to man. I've done sales courses, I've done marketing, I've done social media courses. I know how to build funnels. And, I've got a brain full of so much knowledge because I've learned and learned and learned. Did I put any of it into practice at one point in my life? Not one bit. Spent thousands, like thousands upon thousands for somebody to give me the answer of how to get there. And all I had to do was look within.
I
Because
re-
once I looked within, the dot to dot is so much easier. Because they
yep.
actually put the numbers on them and you're not just squirreling around and like a blind.
I remember when I was 13 and I said, fuck, I'm going to be the first millionaire in my family, the first multi-millionaire in my family. I'm going to become an entrepreneur and create a life unlike anyone else in my family's ever done. And I went out to do it, and I did every course. I listened to all the podcasts. I took all the actions. I created the brands. I created the company. But that voice in my head that said be a millionaire was the ego distracting me from the fact that I don't even have any self-worth, any self-value. And so I just kept spinning the wheels, like I said, and going nowhere. Right? Life's a mirror, it's not a window. Your frequency is what you will frequently see.
Mm-hmm.
Just get that concept that what you're seeing every day is your childhood programming creating your reality until you dissolve it. And once you dissolve it, then first of all, your real purpose will be revealed to you. Once your real purpose is revealed to you, you'll love it, right? Love it is fulfilling, it's motivating. Then you'll start to create it and you'll form the discipline and habits and rituals because you love what you're doing, it's fulfilling, you're contributing, and you've got the 4 pillars of creation.
Yeah.
And then from there, you're no longer forcing in the world, you're allowing and attracting. And in that space, there's no longer any fight with life.
And it just flows. That's why I always talk
Oh,
about, I talk a lot about like the feminine, but it's not the feminine as in women. It's the feminine that's in all of us, allowing the flow of life to happen with ease and grace. That's why this whole divine feminine, uplift is not about women. It's about all of us on the planet
yeah, well,
connecting to our divine wisdom and our intuition and allowing flow to happen rather than just be that scarcity mindset. That's programming. That's the negative feminine, the negative masculine. it's time that we're in a new paradigm shift. That's all got to go.
Yeah, well, here's two of the biggest illusions I discovered on my journey is the illusion that you can get love and the illusion that you can create abundance.
Mm.
They are a state of being,
Yeah.
right? So when you're in that state of being, you attract. We're magnetic beings, we attract, right? We're either attracting or repelling.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's manifesting, just depends what you're manifesting, right? So you will never be able to manifest what you want until you dissolve what you aren't and release that frequency of the guilt, the shame, those lower frequencies. To anyone out there listening, go and look up the frequency chart. See guilt and shame, there's anger, humiliation, resentment, they're all under 100.
Yeah.
And most of us, that's actually our unconscious frequency that we're still holding from our childhood. And we can go into moments of love through connection or experience or being on point, being on purpose. But until we dissolve it, there's always this boogeyman in the closet that wants to come out and it sounds bad, but it's not. It's just the process of you releasing all of that fear and actually going to a place where you're free of the trauma, you're creating consciously, and you're just living the life that you're truly meant to live.
Yeah, because and when you talk about the frequency scale, and that's why it's almost like an addiction, isn't it? Because you're being programmed, you operating from one of these lower frequencies, while sometimes going up the frequencies to get something which feels like out of your reach, feels so euphoric, feels so wonderful when we're in love or bliss or joy, all these high frequency emotions, and then we come back down. And it's almost like, oh, I want to get up there again. And then, oh, and I'm back down here. And you're on this awful cycle. And that's what I was saying to you earlier, going right back to our very first conversation, is it feels so good right now. I'm feeling good. But while still doing this, because our operating platform is not here anymore. We're operating up here, but we're prepared to go down there. We go down there out of choice now, which is awesome.
That's the binge and purge cycle. That's what the ego loves, the high and the low. The minute I feel the whole or the high, that's wholeness. That terrifies the ego. That activates the program. The self-sabotage comes down. I feel the guilt and shame. Then I want to go again. Think about the schooling system. Just think about the schooling system. I get a reward if I'm good. I get scolded if I'm bad. I'm judged by a system. I'm judged by another person, right? And then I'm judged by the level of my peers, but they put me in a box and I don't belong in the box. So this is what I talk to when I say that regardless of what you think, you're conditioned.
Definitely. And even like as you and I said, we're still breaking down conditioning because we're still fighting it every day. It's so ingrained in us that we know we're here to do on a purpose. We're here to do our thing, our soul aligned thing, but we're still fighting against conditioning at times. And we've got to, and when something doesn't flow to us, Stacy, when we go, we've got to look at that conditioning and we go back and reevaluate and go, oh, God damn it, it's still there. There was just one like little bit which was hanging on by a thread. So that's why healing is like the onion, isn't it? You just keep on going.
Yeah, and that's why I asked that question yesterday is, what's the lie that you're living in? Because as soon as you expose the deepest lie that you're hiding, you'll be free.
Yeah.
You'll be free.
And most of it is I'm not worthy.
Yeah.
Most of it, like, you can actually give it to people. You don't feel worthy. And they'll go, of course I feel worthy. No, you don't. And your brain might say you're worthy. This brain or these words might come out your mouth. Yes, I know I'm worthy. But unless you have that heart, brain, soul connection, it's not there.
Yeah, it's something when, people come to work with me, whether it's around money, it's around their relationship, it's around their health. And I'll say to them, what do you want? And they'll say, oh, more money. And I'll say, how much do you want? And they always say $1 million. And I just say, no, you don't. No, you don't. Because if you wanted, you'd have it. And I say, you don't actually want the $1 million. You want the relief of the pressure that's being built up when you get the $1 million. But here's the trap. The minute you get the $1 million, you'll feel freedom. But all of a sudden, you'll be afraid of losing that money and losing that freedom. So you'll unconsciously to try to hold on to it. to try to stop losing it, and then you'll literally get rid of it. Someone will rip you off, you'll lose some, you'll spend it, you'll make a bad investment, and you'll come back to the identity that you formed around the relationships that you have with your parents that matches your relationship with money. So these things are, you know, even for me, speaking to the depths of it, if I would have been sitting here listening to this 3.5 years ago, I would have said, fuck, he's cooked. What the? But when you see it, you can never unsee it.
No. And we would just like to hold up a mirror to each and every one of you, because wherever you are on your journey, awakened or unawakened, we've all got work to do. And if you're at the beginning of your journey, you know, we send you love, and we hope you've got really good support, because we've both had support on our journey, haven't we, Stacey? Otherwise we wouldn't be here today. You know, I haven't just spent out thousands and thousands of dollars on courses that are in my brain, and some I've used and some I haven't. I've invested time and energy into this work, and the benefits are amazing, because most days I wake up and most minutes of every day I feel phenomenal, no matter what's going on in my life. So it's the investment and having that self-honor to invest in yourself.
That's the most beautiful word. I share this with my clients. It's an investment. If we look at an investment from a financial standpoint, it takes time to show a return. So the work that Joanne did 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 1 week ago, myself, the money we invested, we're now seeing the returns. It takes time, guys. Not just going to go, oh, I'm healed. That was my biggest trap. I'm going to go do this program, I'll be healed, and then I'm going to go conquer the world. That was the ego. But it's an investment. And I always say your conscience is the authentic voice of God guiding you on your journey. And every culture since the dawn of time have said this. So you'll be listening to this and you're like, man, I want to work with Joanne. And then you'll reach out and maybe have a discovery call, and then you might create some space, and then your ego will talk you out of it. You've got to take the action when you're called. Find a fucking way. I know on my journey, I was working it out the other day. In the last 3.5 years, I've spent close on $50,000 on myself. And I don't say that to impress you, but to impress upon you what it took. I didn't always have that money. You know, when you're on this journey, God's going to strip away everything. But when I had the calling to work with an individual and God was speaking it into my soul, I said, I'm going to find a way. And literally I'd say, I'm going to find a way, and the money would come, and I'd do the course and I'd have the breakthrough. Everyone, like, I was laughing at this the other day, and I had a guy show up here in a $100,000 ute. He's got the motorbikes, he's got the boats, he's got the cars. And then he said, how much to work with you? And I said, $4,000. And he's like, fuck that. And I just laughed, and he goes, why are you laughing? I said, bro, you got all the boats, you got all the cars, you got everything, but you won't invest in the number one asset, which is you. Yeah. And it just shook him, because I'm just at that point now where I'm not gonna, love isn't lies. And if you have $100,000 ute, sell the fucking thing. Yeah. You know, sell something, find a way, because if you found, the only reason you have those things is because they were important to you. As soon as you realize that you are the number one asset and it's important to you, you'll invest in yourself, and the returns are limitless. Yeah. And
you know, we believe in magic, whether you call it magic, call it whatever you want. It's something happened to me yesterday. Somebody gave me a quote for something that I'm thinking of doing, and it was just over 10 grand. And I was a bit like, something I could perhaps do myself, but it's going to take me ages. I'm like, do I want to invest $10,000 at the minute? Next minute, I put an invoice in and I get paid $10,000. I was like, well, thank you for that sign. It was almost to the exact penny what, you know, it was 10,000 and something, whatever. It was almost to the exact amount that they asked for, and that I just got received, that I received. And I was just like, it always comes when you need it to. That's why I hate when people go, I can't afford that. And I go, no, you just don't want to pay for it. Let's get really straight, because you know what, every time, even as a single broke ass mom, when I was a single mom and left an unhappy marriage and he left me penniless, I found the fucking money. I found the fucking money. My kids have always been clothed. They've always had food. They've always had a home. We've had a car. We found fuel for the car. We found money.
Yeah. You'll find it if it means something to you.
Yes.
You'll find it if it means something to you. And The problem is we have been taught that the things we have are more valuable than us.
And sad is sad, but again, as we talk about, go back to like the education system, go back to programming. There's nothing that's programming our young people, and we were once them young people, to be curious, to believe that you can go and do stuff. Everything in the education system is just do it this way, and this is the way we're doing it. And most teachers are poor. Most teachers can't afford luxury items. They're on their bones of their arse, and they're teaching our kids to be poor.
Yep.
And you're like, everything is just fucked. But it's not. It's not, because again, that's a story. Everything's really beautiful. The world is beautiful. Most people have beautiful hearts. They just don't know how to unprotect them or how to use them correctly. The Mother Nature is just stunning and beautiful, and the world provides miracles every day.
And everything's set up for your success. Think about this. If you watched the inspirational movie and the football star was just the champion from the beginning, it'd be fucking boring, wouldn't it? You'd turn it off. You wouldn't, but if you watch the story where he failed, he fell, he was kicked out of the team, whatever, and then he had to grind and force and get through the injury and that, and then come back and create this mind-blowing story. Fuck, that's why we watch the movies. If you can just see that this part in your life is that part of the movie where you get to face off and become the hero of your own story, create your own movie, and that's going to take some time, some investment, and some struggle, man, you wouldn't wait another day. Like when I understood this concept that if I shift my internal state, I'll create everything I've ever desired and dreamed of, but I won't need it, so I won't be attached to it. And if I have no attachment to it because I've released all of that fear, I'll never lose it.
I know. Magic.
Beautiful.
Magic. We've gone all around the house today, but actually came back to exactly the same one as we always do. So thank you yet again, lovely listeners and tuner-inners, for sending through your questions. They're always brave, they're always bold, and we love them. And we couldn't be doing this if you didn't send your questions. Well, we probably could, because we could probably just talk for hours, but we won't. And so keep sending them in, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, drop the mic, Joanne. You crushed it today. It was beautiful.